So now I opened this generated folder, which we generated with the Vue create command, the Vue first app folder in my case. I opened it with Visual Studio Code, with the editor we've been using thus far, simply with File Open, and then by picking that whole folder which was created. Now in that folder, you see a bunch of files and also subfolders. In my case, I got a Node Modules subfolder, a public subfolder, and a source subfolder, and then, well, a bunch of files. And that's the project setup the Vue CLI generated for us here. Now let me quickly walk you through the structure we have here. On the root level of this project folder, we have a bunch of configuration files. You don't need to care too much about them. Unless you know what you're doing, you can leave all the defaults there. The package.json file is interesting. This in the end defines the scripts we can execute, like npm run serve, which we started to start the development server. And under the hood, you can see those scripts all seem to use something from the Vue CLI. So they're doing stuff that has been pre-configured for us. We also have dependencies here, and there, for example, you see Vue, the framework, as a dependency. These are packages which are now available in our code. And package simply means that this will be imported and added to our code automatically. We don't need to add any script tags in any HTML file to have those packages available. Throughout this course, we're going to add more packages, but for now we can start with these packages which we have here. We also got certain development dependencies. These are also packages, but only packages which our project setup here uses under the hood. For example, the development server is in one of those packages. So these are all packages which we don't have to care about. These are packages which we're going to use actively or implicitly when we write code. Now that's it for this file. We can ignore all the other files for now and instead have a look at the other folders. Node Modules in the end houses the packages mentioned in package.json. Here we specify that we need them. npm, the Node Package Manager tool, which we install together with Node, then in the end goes ahead and downloads those packages into our project and stores them in the Node Modules folder. It does that with a specific command you can run. In the terminal, if we quit that running development server, which you can do with Ctrl+C, you can run npm install to tell npm to have a look at package.json, download all those dependencies into a Node Modules folder, and well, then they're available. And once that npm install process finished, which you don't need to do right now because the Vue CLI did it for us when it created the project, once that finished, you can again run npm run serve to bring up that development server again. And by the way, you should keep that server up and running. You should keep that process up and running because you can only test your app as long as that is running. If you're done for the day, you can quit with Ctrl+C. But if you're starting to write code again in that project, you need to run that server again. That's an important note here about that server, that it should be up and running whilst you're writing code. npm install is required whenever you share a project without Node Modules, for example, like the future code attachments you will find in this course. Then you need to run npm install once to make sure that all the packages are available. In a brand new project created with Vue create, you don't need to run npm install because Vue create, the command we executed to create the project, already did that for us. And that's the Node Modules folder. A lot of talking about that, but it is important to understand what it does. It contains our dependencies, for example, the Vue framework, and also dependencies of dependencies. That's why it's so big. You should leave the Node Modules folder alone. Don't change code in there. Don't delete it. That will all impact your application in a negative way. You should just leave it here. The public folder is a very simple folder. Here, in the end, we got a HTML file, and this is a very simple looking file. That's, in the end, the file that will contain our Vue application in the end. You see it has a div with an ID app, and in the end, you will soon see that is where our Vue app will be mounted to. And we will only have one HTML file here since we're building a Vue single page application, which means everything we see on the screen will be controlled with Vue and JavaScript, and we'll just have one HTML file and use Vue to bring different things onto the screen. Now, all the imports that might be needed here and all of that will be managed automatically by the Vue CLI and by that development server. So we don't need to edit this HTML file right now. Instead, we have that source folder here, and that source folder contains the JavaScript code we're going to write. So it contains our Vue code in the end. And it is worth a closer look, because you can already tell there are some strange files in here. For example, a .vue file. Now, what's that about?